Welcome to Incognito Islamic Productions.
What two consenting adults do is no one else's business. Well, consent alone doesn't determine legitimacy. If two adults consent to kill each other, it doesn't make it right. For example, in law in Britain, if two companies wish to merge, one makes an offer, the other makes an acceptance. It doesn't make it legitimate until the government intervenes and the Monopolies Commission check the merger before it is agreed upon. So just because two companies want to merge doesn't make it right. Here in Britain, for example, if a mother consents to having a relationship with a man and that man happens to be her son, it is illegal because incest is illegal. So consent there alone doesn't legitimize something. If a father wishes to have a relationship with another man that happens to be his adult son, the consent alone doesn't make it right. It's still incestuous. So the point here is consent alone doesn't legitimize an act. But the more important issue relating to this is it's a private action. Well, it's not a private action. If it was a private action and people committed sin or people committed whatever acts they did in the privacy of their home and the public are protected from that, then that's fine. Nobody should really interfere in that, and it's not their right to go into other people's private lives. But this is not private. This is affecting the values of society. When the government is pushing LGBT through law, through schools and through the workplace, it's no longer private, it's public. When they pass legislation, it's public. When you've got campaigns and projects across the schools and workplaces, it's not private, it's public. And when you've got legislation equalizing single-sex marriage and legitimizing LGBT lifestyle, it's no longer private, it's public, and it affects society. And how does it affect society? Well, the values, secular values, and the LGBT value is just one value of secular values. Reduces, for example, lower birth rate. If fewer people are getting married and fewer people are having children, you're going to have a lower birth rate. And this is an effect which is alive in the Western world. There is a negative growth of population in many of the Western European countries. So when you've got fewer children being born, you've got the demographic triangle changing, where you've got more older people than younger people. So the taxation which is collected is not sufficient to look after the elderly. And we are feeling those problems today in the West. A bigger tax burden and an increase of the retirement age is another effect of this. And if you've got families which are not traditional families with a father figure and a mother figure, it has a psychological impact. And there are other factors as well which I accept, about capitalist factors, which means both mother and father are working and there's nobody to look after the kids and they get institutionalized with childcare. That has an effect, but that's a different discussion. But the point is, these values have an effect on society and they affect society. So, for example, in the West now, they're talking about increasing taxes further to look after the elderly. They're talking about increasing taxation on property of the elderly to pay for their care when they get old. So you cannot say that the social values, LGBT being one of them, does not affect society. It absolutely affects society, and we are facing problems in the West which were never faced before, directly because of the social values, of which LGBT is one of many of those values. And this is a problem with Western liberalism, because liberalism focuses on the individual's right to enjoy themselves and the individual's right at the expense of the right of the society. Islam, on the other hand, balances the right of the individual and the right of the society. And the hadith here of An-Nu'man bin Bashir, who reported that the Prophet ﷺ said, society is like a ship where you got people on the upper deck and the lower deck. And the people on the lower deck, when they want water, they have to inconvenience the people at the upper deck to get the water in a bucket and pass it down to them. Now, if some bright spark on the lower deck decides to drill a hole in the boat, the people on the upper deck cannot say, oh, this has got nothing to do with us. No, they have to forbid them, because if they do not forbid them, the whole boat will sink. Meaning, if there is corruption in society and it's not forbidden, the whole society will be affected by it.